Are you looking for the magic to make your life truly count? Do you want the secret formula to make every day your best day yet? Hello, and welcome to the Finishing on Fire radio show. And now, here are your show hosts, Dave Wadsworth and Greg Vance.
All right, relationships, our spouse. I was listening to a podcast. I don't know, maybe it was John Lee Dumas was talking to somebody, Entrepreneurs on Fire, and they said, talking about what people are looking for and I guess what they spend money on, so forth, that, you know, what they're going after. And one is they want relationships, health, time, and sex. I think those are kind of the four categories that really get people going and what they go after. And relationships are so critical in your life. You know, this is a life is a team sport. You can't live without people. And the most important is your spouse, obviously. Once you're married, you know, you cling to that person, you become one in your marriage, and you do life together. Mm-hmm. And actually it's one of the longest relationships you'll ever have. Now, if you have parents that live a long time, then they're going to be longer, but your spouse. And I know you and Sherry have been together a lot of years. I don't know, where you at on years now?
Yeah, so this will be number 34.
34. Good for you guys. Yeah, we're turning 36 here in a month or so, or very soon. Actually, when this episode comes out, we may have hit the number. So 36 years. We've been actually together. We dated for a good while till we finished college, and then we got married immediately after college. And so we've been together almost 40 years. So that's a long time to put up with me. That's funny. In these relationships, we're going to talk about our spouse. I'm glad Glenda left the room. So we're going to try to be nice. But in my book, I'm going to talk about this. Our book is Finishing on Fire. And actually the subtitle is Live Your Legacy of Purpose, Passion, and Prosperity. It's on Amazon, number one best-selling on Amazon. And we talk about targeting people. My one chapter in there, I think it's chapter 12, we'll get into, is about targeting people. And in your bullseye, if you ever see a target, like a gun target, or for shooting practice and so forth, or you go see the Target store, you see what a target is. Well, the bullseye is that center point, okay? And the very center of that are the people that you need to have in your life that you really focus on. And of course, number one is your spouse, also includes your children, and then also your parents, if your parents are still alive. And so that's the targeting thing. And we're talking about our spouse, today. So that's what we're moving into. And like I said, the most important relationship and probably the longest you'll have in your life.
Absolutely. For our listener today, I think one of the challenges that we talked about with this episode is, challenging each other around, is our relationship, is our marriage the best that it can be? And I think the realization we came to is, well, whether it's good or it's bad, it can always be more. It can always be better. So I don't think we can have a goal in mind, but it's like moving the goalposts. Once you get to that, you can always move further. You can always do better.
That's funny. If you've got any doubt about that, if it can improve, just ask your wife. She will let you know. I tell you, Glenda is a good one. But a lot of times I'll do something and it's maybe the first time I've done it or I haven't done it for a long time. And she's like, oh, that's great. That's great. That's great. And then she's like, well, why didn't you go ahead and do this? And it's like, wait a minute, I just accomplished this hurdle. And now you're wanting me to do this, or you're questioning why I didn't. I'm like, hey, come on, let's take just a minute and say, acknowledge, wow, Dave, you've really stepped up here.
you can see that
Oh,
gap and just fill it. So let me ask you a
Yeah.
question. Does and I should know this, knowing Glenda, but does she appreciate surprises?
Some of them. She likes nice surprises. She doesn't like public surprises. Oh my
Uh,
God. I'll tell you one time. Here's something not to do. You need to know your wife. But probably 5 or 6 years ago, I at Thanksgiving it was Christmas. We had a bunch of family over. I had her brother and his wife and different ones. Probably had a dozen people at the time for our dinner, and I got up and did a toast for Glenda, and I just said, hey, my wife, and I said some really nice things, and I meant them. But afterwards, she said, that was very nice, Dave. I appreciate that. Don't do it again. My wife, she doesn't want to be on the stage. She does not want to be put in the spotlight. Now, me, I've spoken before, 1,000, 2,000 people,
yeah.
At events, no big deal. I mean, you say, hey, Dave, you're up next. You need to talk for, 10 minutes in front of this crowd. I'm like, sure, I'll be right there. And I don't even, I say, what's the subject or whatever, and I'll just do it. And I'm okay with that. And I enjoy that. I enjoy the interaction. I enjoy the encouragement I have to the crowd and from the crowd. And I just like that. But boy, you put her in her own kitchen, surrounded by her own family, who she's known forever. And you put a little spotlight on her, and it's like, no, don't do that. Why did you do that?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there would. Yeah, for you for sure, you'd be asking, yeah, which way's the stage? Just point me there. Let's make it happen. But the reason I asked you that question was it's taken me a number of years, and I don't know why, to realize that my spouse Sherry, she does not like surprises. Meaning, like, if you think, her birthday's coming up or anniversary or something like that, she would much rather enjoy knowing what it is and the anticipation of it, actually happening. So like if you say we're going to go on a trip or something, she would much rather know what the trip is, a month ahead of time. Get excited that entire time and then experience it, rather than, the night before saying, hey, we're going to go on this big trip tomorrow. Yeah, I did those things a couple different times, surprise party, stuff like that. They didn't go very well. And I kept trying, thinking, oh, I just haven't done the right thing. No, I didn't take the right approach. she appreciates. Versus me, I would much rather wait and delay it until the moment, it's going to happen, and not know anything about it. So
yeah. Well, it took you a while, but you learned.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's so important in our relationship with our spouse. We need to constantly be looking for what pleases them. Okay.
Mhm.
Figure out, what do they like? What do they not like? And focus on, how can I make their life a little better today by giving them more of what they like and
Right.
less of what they don't like.
Yeah. And it just made me remember that a few episodes ago, and I don't remember which one it was, but anyway, we talked about the book, The 5 Love Languages, and how to, that book's a good resource for helping you think through that and, getting more in touch with that. So I just throwing that back out in case whoever is listening to our podcast today hasn't had a chance to listen to that. You might go back and check that one out.
Yeah. That is a good one. The 5 love languages, people respond in different ways. Their language is the different thing. So one is like time together. One is like gifts.
Right.
One of them, some people like gifts. One is, what's the others? Help me out there, Greg.
Yeah. So there's there's basically time.
Like
yeah, physical touch. Yep. Time together. Yep. And I'm forgetting the fifth one right now. I'll have to look it up. We can put it in the show notes afterwards.
Yeah. but it's just, those are languages that, through time have been proven with relationships, how people want give and receive love. Okay.
Exactly.
And some people, if you do things for them, okay, that just turns them on. My wife, I tell you what, when I do things around here, sometimes she's like, wow, thank you very much. It's not big, but if I do it, I know when I do the dishwasher, when it's full and I go ahead and run it, and she's had a hard day, she comes home and she's like, did you run the dishwasher? And I say, yes. She's like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. So it makes a difference. And so I think we need to look for those things that, turn them on, and turn their spirit on. I'm not talking, sexual stuff. I'm just talking about what really lifts them up. Okay.
Yeah,
And that's
delights
how
them.
yeah. So
All right.
good
All right.
stuff.
So for clarity, I just went and looked those up because since I fumbled the ball on the fifth one, let's review. Let's review. Number one, words of affirmation. So positive, uplifting words. Number two, quality time. We talked about that one. Focus time, spending time together.
Yes.
The third one is receiving gifts. We talked about that one. Appreciation through a gift. Jewelry is always good, flowers, things like that. Whatever your spouse likes, right? Number four is acts of kindness. So those are basically doing services and things like that. We talked about that one. And then physical touch.
Physical,
So massages, things like that.
Hand holding, hugs, so many hugs and stuff. You started out with the positive affirmations, and that reminds me of I want to bring up again, because I want to encourage people. I want to talk to you. I've been doing the TikTok thing where every day I put out a 1-minute video on attitude and positivity and being happy and lifting your spirit. And I just constantly find things throughout my day to bring in, a way to talk about, your attitude and how critical that is in your life, and positivity and so forth. And so I go under the name or the handle or whatever it's called is attitude _ answer man. And I'm answering questions, but actually what I'm doing is I'm giving just an injection, basically a 1-minute injection of positivity, ideas of being happy, enjoying life, making life better for you and the people around you. And I enjoy doing those, and I have thousands of people that watch these videos, and it's pretty awesome. It's fun because we hear so much negative. I'm just tickled to be able to put out, the positive. And so everyone I talk to, they really enjoy them. So
yeah, your words can definitely turn somebody's day around. So I'm proud of you for doing that. Yeah. So so you want to give us we got a quote lined out here from your book related to your spouse, and it was on page 144, I think is where it was.
Yeah, thanks for helping me out there. I've got it marked here, and I've got so many little markers and stuff. Here's a quote, and we talk about, this is from chapter 12. I'm sure that's what it is. Yeah, 12. And it's about targeting people and our bullseye people, our wife, our spouse, our children, and our parents, if they're still around. And so here's a quote, and this is about our spouse. It says, you always start with your spouse since she is number one. If she is not number one, then you have to develop a game plan to get that changed. This is the person you pledged your life to. At one time, you were over the moon in love with them. They also felt the same about you. Take your mind back to those glory days. Remind yourself of who you are and who they are. Successfully finishing on fire requires a strong and happy marriage. And that's what it's about. Focusing on them, focusing on their needs, what lights their fire. Pardon my pun. But if you go back to those days when you remember, first being married, oh my gosh, it was awesome. It really was. It still is for us because, well, just this morning, Greg, we went out and had breakfast at Cracker Barrel together, just thoroughly enjoyed, our time together. And we talked and we caught up on some things. And I'd just soon be with my wife and have breakfast as anybody, really. And we've been together forever, seems like, for her anyway. She's like, oh my gosh. But but you got to take yourself back to those days. And if you're struggling with that relationship, you've got to remember, wait a minute, why did we start to begin with, and how did we feel, and how did they feel? And if there's an issue there and they're not number one, okay, well, you need to put a plan together and say, okay,
Yeah.
what's my plan on fixing this? Okay. And you can only do so much, they have to do their part, but every day there's little steps that you can take and make that relationship better. Okay. And I don't know who it was. The quote was, if you want to make the world a better place, you start with yourself.
Right.
And I totally agree that in your relationship with you and your spouse, I don't care, what she does or he does. It doesn't matter. It's what you do. It's your response. It's your actions. It's your words. It's your attitude. It's what you do. That's what you're in control of. 100% is you. Okay. And then she or he will have to make that response in return, their response. But for you, you control 100% of what comes out of your mouth. Okay. Your thoughts, okay, your actions, it's all you. And so that's what I like about this quote is you need to think back and think, okay, why did we fall in love? And how do I get this back on track? And, and of course, time has passed and things have happened. Well, today's a new day.
Right.
And that's what this book's about. Today is a new day, and every day you treat it like a new opportunity, a new beginning, so yeah.
That's a great point. Today's a new day, and as they say, it gets awful difficult dragging around all the luggage from the past days. A new day can really be helpful to lighten your load, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, we carry so much excessive baggage that I don't know. We just have such good memories of times that we're offended or hurt or so on, and we just carry that with us. And we really need to purge that, and that's part of the book is too. Is okay, forgive. Let's move on. Okay, you don't forget necessarily, but excuse me, you do have to do the forgiveness part and say, okay, a mistake was made. Part of it was me, part of it was them, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Let's move on. And that's a daily thing, because if I wanted to be offended, I could be offended all day long, by my spouse or people in my life. You know what? You don't have time for that. Okay. If you're going to finish life strong, if you're going to live your best life, it requires you to just, lighten up, enjoy who you're with, and look at the good in them. Find all the good qualities. You married this person, right, which meant at some point you said, yeah, of all the 3 billion other, women in the world, I want this one. She's mine. And you chose her. Okay. And so remind yourself of that. And I remember Jennifer Aniston talking about years ago. Jennifer Aniston, she was with was it Ben Affleck, I think, at the time, and they broke up. And she said, she says, even if it was just 1% my fault in this relationship, why it went south and we split up, she said, I've got to own that. And she said, I think she gave herself like one day and said, okay, for one day, I'm going to cry. I'm going to, go through this misery, but then I'm going to pick myself back up and move on. And instead of saying, yeah, 99%, he was bad. He, did whatever. And we can do that in our life. We can say, yeah, look at this person. They did all this stuff. No, that doesn't do any good. Cause a lot of times, yeah, maybe 10% of it was us. Maybe it was even 40 or 50%. We created an issue. Maybe we didn't mean to, but we
Right.
did. So we just need to own life, and move on with our spouse, and just, have that forgiveness, instead of being offended.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think as we may have talked about earlier in the beginning, there's sometimes there can be those things between you and your spouse that is, as the phrase goes, the elephant in the room, the thing that's unsaid that nobody's dealing with. And so,
Yep.
that's one of the best strategies is to get those things out in the open. If you can't talk to your spouse, who can you
Yeah.
talk to?
Yeah. And that's right. And sometimes, Greg, you bring up a good point. A lot of times when my wife comes home, she's had been at the hospital and she's been through some stuff that I can't even imagine. And she needs to release some of that. She needs to talk to me. She doesn't give me a lot of details, but she gives me enough to know her life is tough. When
Hmm.
you're dealing with life and death and people that are struggling, there, it's tough, and you got to talk to somebody. And when she comes home, I don't want to hear some of this negative, but she needs to release it to somebody. And so I need to be open to that and say, wait a minute, you know what? If she can't release it to me, who can she do that? And she doesn't do it in a mean way. She doesn't come home and just dump all this stuff on me, and
Right.
she tries to be, she just needs to talk.
Right.
She just needs to talk it out. And I'm like, wow. So, it makes my life seem pretty tame compared to what she sees and what she deals with. Because I don't deal with people living and dying every day. I don't deal
Right.
with that and
Exactly.
stuff. So especially if she works emergency room, she sees a lot of tough things. And so that's a part of choosing as a spouse. Am I going to be open and supportive, or am I just going to, just let her live that part on her own and deal with it? That's not healthy for the relationship. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
Sometimes you just need to be able to process that stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I don't have to have any answers for it. This is something that's been hard for me as a guy. I'm like, she comes home and she wants to talk about this and this, and I'm like, okay. And then I'm wanting to give her answers, and I'm wanting to
Yeah.
fix things, and it's like, and she just wants to somebody to listen,
Right.
and that's hard for me. I don't listen as well as I should.
I think it's hard for 99% of the men.
Yeah,
There's 1% out there somewhere that know how to do that
yeah,
better.
yeah, we're special.
And now it's time for Last Lap Learning.
So I know we kind of put a book in already that we didn't intend to,
Oh,
but this is the one we did intend to. So I've got a book recommendation here, if we can read it. It's
yeah.
yeah, it's called Love and Respect: The Love She Most Desires, the Respect He Desperately Needs, and it's by Dr. Egerich. And I've read this book a number of times. My wife's read it. We actually gave it to our daughter and son-in-law when they were first married for them to review as well. So we got a lot of really good information out of it. And it doesn't mean that that if if you're the wife in the marriage, it doesn't mean that you don't need respect, but it just means you need love just that much more. That's one of the key things. And the flip to that doesn't mean men don't need love, but just a little bit more. They really need to feel that presence of respect. And so it really is a good book to help you understand each other. In fact, if I remember right, it's actually a set of X number of chapters written to women, Y number of chapters written to men to help each other understand the situation. So it's a good resource.
Good, good. I appreciate you bringing that up, because I, for some reason, in the back of my mind, I'm familiar with it, but not much, and that's why, Greg, you come at things a little different than me, because your experiences with you and Sherry, your education, your learning experiences and opportunities are different than mine, and you have these resources that maybe I haven't heard of, or I'm not real familiar with. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I like the idea of the book and what it talks about, and I've heard that a lot. So I appreciate that, buddy.
Cool. Yep. And his background is he's actually a clinical therapist, and so he's got all the all the background and education and all that to help with marriage counseling. That's what he does. So anyway,
Gotcha. Good stuff.
Yeah. So that was our last lap learning. And now we're going to go into one of my favorite portions of the program.
And now it's time for Wadsy's World. Yes, Dave Wadsworth's true life animal stories.
So this is Wadsy's World, is amazing animal stories. I have encounters with animals, but they're nowhere near like the ones that Mr. Dave Wadsworth has with animals. So the format for today is, as with every episode we do this on, is I come up with a number. Dave's going to check his magic list of encounters he's had and share a story with us. So today's number is 13.
Number 13, lucky 13. I'm gonna pull off my thing here and write it down here. Okay. Number 13 is geese. Geese. So I have to come up with a story in my background talking about geese. I tell you what, I'll be honest with you, Greg, you never really had a chance. My first book I wrote is called Living in the Ditch. And it's on Amazon also, a little paperback, an ebook, and living in the ditch. So I started out living in the ditch. And so you talk about animal encounters. I never did see a goose or geese in the ditch. Now I did see ducks. I did have some ducks in there from time to time, and a few water birds, coots. I think it's Coots, coots, I believe. And we'd see those every once in a while, a great blue heron, but I don't even know if that's on my list. I need to, I have like 40 some animals here, and I don't even know if I have those on my list. I need to write them in here. So when you call the number, I'll have them. So anyway, geese, I had to, okay, here's a story, doing the TikTok videos on attitude. Okay, every day. And I look out my back window, my kitchen window, and I see animals all the time. And one day it was raining, and I have a lake with a couple islands, and I have a walking trail around the lake and stuff. I have gravel, and it's nice. And the family, we enjoy it a lot. But one day I looked out, and there were these two geese, and it seems like every year they come, and I don't know their names, but they they show up, and they will build a nest on one of my islands, and they will just try to hatch out, a couple eggs there. And sometimes what happens, the turtles or snakes or something get to them, and they don't do real well. But these two geese, they were within about 25 feet of my back window from looking out the back there. So I did a little TikTok video on the geese, and it was raining, and they were there fiddling around in a puddle in my yard, and they were and what they do. And I was talking about how the weather, no matter what, you need to have a good attitude even in bad weather. And these geese were out there, and I got to looking at them, and what they do, the way I understand, geese mate for life. Okay, so when they mate, it's not like next season they pick up another female or male and they go, no, they mate for life. And these two geese were out there, and one thing when they do, what they do is they will they're always eating and pooping, which is is this G-rated? I don't know, but anyway, they are pooping machines. But they're
Yes.
nipping, they're eating grass and different types of vegetation, and they're just nibbling all the time, eating, and then they're dumping all over my trail and everywhere else. It's like disgusting. But one thing they do, the one is eating, got its head down, eating. Well, the other one, they never do that at the same time. The other one has his head sticking way up in the air, and he's looking around, and he's like the guard, on guard for any kind of predators, that might come and get him. And it's really kind of cool. And it reminds me of my spouse and your spouse, and how we need to always be looking out for each other. And I told my wife this morning. We were having breakfast, and I told her how much I appreciate how she looks out for me in a lot of ways. She has certain roles in our marriage, and she really takes good care of me in a lot of ways, and I appreciate that. And it was reminding me, these geese, how always there's one eating, but there's always the other one looking around and covering their backside,
You're right.
and I think that was pretty cool how the animals are doing that, and that's my animal story. And it
Ah,
actually ties in with with relationships, and our spouse. So
exactly. Well, and it kind of goes back now that you said that. Yeah, I've noticed that about about geese, and probably really hadn't thought about it. And then also, we were talking back at the beginning about our spouses observing things in us, or maybe pointing out things that maybe we're not aware of. And it kind of goes to that little bit to that picture you had of, one is hard at work eating, the other one's keeping watch around and just being the observant one, and then switching places. That's kind of a good model for us.
and that is, and it talks about Greg, great point, excellent point. We both have roles that we play,
Right.
and sometimes they mix a little bit, but we each do things. The other day we needed the oil changed in a couple vehicles here, and Glenda's car, and I was one of them. And I talked to her. I said, "What's your schedule coming up?" And then I'll talk to the mechanic and get it in, because we've got a close neighbor here that does our mechanic work. And that is something I take care of. Okay. Where she does other chores and different things, and we work together. We're a team, and it's not really, heavily weighted one way or the other. And it's just,
Perfect.
and we've got a pretty big place here. We've got, several acres, and we do a lot of mowing, and we switch off. She enjoys mowing sometimes she doesn't. And but we take turns. We got a big mower, so we can do a lot. But it's the idea of working as a team, respecting each other, loving each other, and looking for those ways to make each other's life a little better. Because when you make your spouse's life better, your life becomes better. Just no doubt about it.
Wise words.
That's what I told John Lee Dumas the other day when I was able to eat lunch with him. We were together, and I gave him a quote, and he says, "Those are good words." He said, "That's really good." I said, "You know what? Every once in a while, I just fall into a good one, and it's like, there it is." So,
Well, Dave, you want to take us out with our 2-minute warning for this episode?
And now it's time for the 2-minute warning.
yes, yeah, we've really talked about the spouses and our relationships, and how important they are, and how critical they are. Because if you're unhappy in your relationship, it's awful. And one thing, just one little baby step that you can do, and this will absolutely make a change in your relationship. Okay, it'll be very positive. Okay, and it's very simple. It's very easy, and there's no excuse not to do it. And I don't care who you are, and you may do this already. This may be a practice that you've done, and I've done this before, but here it is. Okay, I love these little yellow sticky notes. I use them all the time, the 3M sticky notes, and I use them. I'm writing myself notes all the time and sticking them everywhere, because when you're down to 3 brain cells, you got to work them hard. So this is your thing on the 2-minute warning. Okay, tomorrow morning. All right. Excuse me. Hopefully you get up before your wife, because this is what I want you to do. Or if you get up in the middle of the night and have to go, you go to the smallest room in your house. Okay. And in that smallest room in your house, you have your mirror. Okay. You have your sink, your mirror, your shower, and your toilet. Okay. But on that mirror, I want you to get a yellow sticky note. All right, here it is. And you write these words: "Thank you for everything. I love you." And that's all you need to do. Just write down, "Thank you for everything. I love you." And you stick it on the mirror, and let your wife find it. Okay. You can leave and whatever. Let me tell you something. I promise you, that little thing, that little note, it'll light her up.
Thank you for listening to the Finishing on Fire radio show. Be sure to visit finishingonfire.com for more great content. Go light your world.